It's time for our first of several jumbo pieces, looking at my favorite demos from Next Fest of June 2026. We got a lot of demos for today of some amazing games you should definitely be checking out. We're starting things off with Endless Rails. This is a kind of bullet-heavy roguelite style. Your job is to keep your train on the rails while monsters are chasing after you wave after wave. You control your drones with one hand, and you can move the train along the train tracks with your other hand. Each wave, the enemies will be coming from both sides, and you'll need to use your various weapons and your train cars in order to defend. The game uses a very similar system of what we see from auto battlers, in that you'll equip your train with various cars. The cars themselves will do different things. Drone cars will give you more drones that you can use to fight. There are cars that will give the train itself weapons, and there are cars that will give kind of bonuses based on their proximity to the other cars. You can combine the various train cars not only to save up space, but to boost the properties of all the modules that are on there. And this can lead to some strategies where you can combine your kind of debuff, or kind of cars that give a buff but also a debuff together, but put them in a position where they won't affect anything else, while all your kind of buff causing ones are next to your weapons have all been merged into one kind of supercar. And you must go wave after wave until you get to the end. There is meta progression in terms of unlocking passive benefits to both the train and to the different drone kinds. And I like the flow of this one, and like a lot of these kinds of auto battler or bullet heaven style games, you have to reach a point where you are just decimating the enemies or you're going to be overwhelmed. My only concern is that I'm not quite sure what the long game of this one is going to be. Are there going to be, story modes? Is it just survive wave up to wave and just build the meta progression? Because by the end of the run that I won, I kind of was just destroying everything, like nothing was standing in my way. Still, a really great concept for a game, and if you're a fan of auto battlers and trains, I would at least give this one a try. And now we go to Nimaat. This is an RPG that was inspired by Fear and Hunger. We play as Nimaat, a woman in ancient Egypt, but when the old gods are being replaced by the new ones, they turn out not to be too thrilled about, and her village is soon besieged by monsters, calamities, and more. With her husband murdered and her son's soul stolen, she must try and get it back and kill a lot of things along the way. A big standout of Nimaat is the presentation, especially during the combat itself. I love the animation, kind of how it moves when you're fighting. Much like with Fear and Hunger, you'll be able to target specific parts of the enemy to either remove them or weaken them, and then of course aim up for the head to take them out. There are QTEs or action commands in this one, they felt a little bit off. It kind of seemed like the animation wasn't syncing to the sound effect, which made it a lot harder to kind of pinpoint when you're supposed to do it. I'm also wasn't a fan of the fact that in order for you to kind of avoid all damage, you must get all the action commands right. And many of these enemies will attack 2, 3, 4 times in a row. So if you get 3 out of 4, you're taking full damage. And then from one other point, I was having issues with the GUI not popping up. And these are definitely some very serious technical issues I hope or should be hammered out in the main game. But the presentation, the story, and the general combat do kind of keep it going to some extent. So if you don't mind a bit of jankiness, at least in the demo phase, I would give it a try. But I'm definitely keeping my eye on the game for when it will be released for some more horror Egyptian-based combat. And we're really switching things up for our next game with Fish. You play a fish who likes to use a gun and shoot things. When their world is being attacked by Minesweeper, the literal program of Minesweeper, we must shoot, jump, and murder our way through a very unusual setting in order to save the day. Our gameplay here is kind of like a run and gun, your Contra Gunstar Heroes style. You'll acquire different guns and items as you explore and deal with these strange denizens of the land. Now, you do not have any defensive options at the start, and I did find it a little bit hard to avoid taking damage. You will get access to like special abilities, and the shield that allows you to parry is probably the best one out of the start. You also have a dedicated fish button, which I don't know what it does. If you're in the mood for some craziness with fish, I would give this one a play. And if anyone has any question about why a fish needs a gun, I'll do you one better. Why aren't fish doing parries and dodge rolls in real life? And now we go to Dicevaders. This is the sequel to Starvaders, where we're trading in deck building for dice building. You play as the aliens this time, and you must try and take over the Earth from those pesky humans. The gameplay works like this. Your aliens are arranged in columns, ranged from 1 to 6 to correspond with your dice. Whatever number dice you roll will activate that column and the effects that are attached to it. Each alien has, of course, different impacts based on their position, what you roll, etc, etc. You can also attach artifacts/relics to the columns that can proc as well. You have access to 2 special resources with Budge and Chrono. Budge lets you, well, nudge a dice either up or down to affect its roll, and Chrono lets you reset various elements. You'll be able to acquire new aliens and new artifacts, and this is all about engine building, as you must try and reach the target number before you run out of turns. I found this one to be a bit on the harder side. You really need to be thinking like 3 steps ahead of all your actions, since you only have limited numbers of actions to either affect the position of your characters, the position of your dice, and resetting various things. This is one of those games, much like with a lot of the other engine builders, that it's easy until it's not. And I do wonder how the full game is going to be in terms of the difficulty in that respect. So if you're in the mood to do some engine building and don't mind a little bit of complexity, I would at least give this one a try. And now we go to a Magical Blush. This is a twin-stick Metroidvania. When the elements are taking over, it's up to us to use spells and knock them out. The gameplay works is that you have 2 kinds of spells, your basic ones and advanced. The basic spells do very little damage, but they will regain your mana. Advanced spells will often have special effects and do far more damage, but cost mana to use. Every enemy belongs to one of the 4 elements. Hitting them with their weakness will do more damage, hitting them with their strong 2 will reduce that damage. And like any good elemental based combat, you'll need to quickly figure out who you're fighting and what spells to use against them. Now this game can be a little bit button heavy. Your spells will correspond to the 4 face buttons, and you can have up to 8, as you can switch between 2 loadouts of spells. As you explore, you'll uncover more areas, more spells, more things to equip. And the game goes for kind of like a stage-based Metroidvania. Each area will have multiple exits. Some of those exits will be tied to a specific element or item or power that you need. So you'll have to do backtracking to go to new exits to get to new areas. And I found this one to be quite charming. If you're not put off by having to do a lot of spell casting, slinging, and button pressing, highly recommend you give this one a try. And now we go to Salt and Soul. You play a salt shaker who has been brought back using the spirit of a grandmother to help mend her family's problems by, well, preparing some amazing food. The game is split between you exploring looking for ingredients and then doing QTEs to the rhythm in order to properly prepare them for said meal, all while trying to learn the emotional story that's going on. I like the look of this one, and it is really funky doing the whole sense of scale. as you'll scale all manner of things as your tiny little character, who apparently when you are possessed by a grandmother, you can double jump and air dash as well. But as it turns out, someone who is horrible at rhythm, I am probably not going to be the best chef out there. So I'm very curious to see like how much more there is to this one in terms of the platforming. And if you're in the mood to do some cooking and jumping, I would at least give this one a try. And now we go to Chunky Jump. This is a platformer horror game. When you are stuck working at a gas station, you find what is probably a possessed game cartridge. And now you must play the game and try to survive the deranged character trying to get at you. The game has a lot of like kind of like little mini games you can do, but the main focus is that each night you must perform tasks to keep yourself protected while trying to complete the level in the platformer. Now the platforming here is kept relatively basic. You have one jump and you're just going to have to try and climb from bottom to top. There are checkpoints along the way and collectibles to get. Now, I did find the controls to be a little bit awkward. It's one of those games where if you're using the mouse or using the keyboard, it deactivates the other. So I had this case where I accidentally hit the wrong thing. I was trying to use the mouse, but I wasn't reading the mouse anymore because I thought I was using the keyboard. And like a lot of these kinds of like mixed focus horror games, you'll need to do your best job of managing everything going on all at once. I don't know how much harder the main game is going to be compared to this one. I did like the art style, and this one could be a great mix of platforming and terror, if you're looking for that particular combination. And speaking of combinations, our next game is Dungeon Settlers. This is a mix between the Dwarf Fortress, like colony sim style, and real-time with pause dungeon crawling. You are exploring various dungeons, as the title implies, but you also need to set up your base camp. This will revolve around you harvesting resources, building various items, gear, and more you'll take into combat, and of course hiring the people who will come with you. You'll need to manage the gear for every character. You have kind of health and head protection as your two main vitals, and if your head runs out of health, you're going to die, of course. The real-time with pause can be a little bit tricky, as you'll need to manage your character's positioning and the position of your attacks while dealing with the enemies. And this one, I would say, is on the harder side. The combination is very interesting. And I would say that if you are like a fan of, like, again, the colony sim, very like builder-focused titles, but looking for a little bit more in terms of combat, I would definitely give this one a try. I am curious to see how this one will turn out when it is released. And now we go to Peng Pong. When a hockey-playing penguin is deemed too aggressive for the game, he decides to get a job beating up aliens in space with hockey stick and puck in hand. This is an action roguelike, where you'll survive wave after wave of enemies in order to gain upgrades that will benefit your stick, your puck, or your character. Now, you get access to kind of different puck-based abilities based on the perks you choose. I eventually went with multi-puck smacking and other bonuses as well. The game uses, as you can tell, the rubber hose style that we've seen popularized by Cuphead. And I do like what I was seeing with this one. There is meta progression with being able to improve your base stats, and it appears that there is kind of a campaign structure. Each area is kind of split into multiple chapters. Each chapter will raise the difficulty, introduce new considerations you'll have to deal with. And you're going to go from area to area, run by run, to try and get through it all. It's hard to tell from the demo how hard the full game is going to be. Like with a lot of the roguelike and other like Bullet Heaven or Bullet Heaven adjacent games, again, once you get your right items, your right build going, you're going to be ripping and tearing through everything. But still a very delightful take on the action roguelike. So, if you're a hockey fan, and you like, I guess, maybe pinball as well, I would definitely give this one a shot. Now we go to Bunderkin, the Ocular Eclipse. This footage is taken from the demo that's also being built around their Kickstarter and may not represent the current version of the game. You play as this green bunny creature who's considered bad luck in their village. But when a strange eclipse happens at the fair, we are trapped in a time loop and must figure out how to break it and of course find that golden loop. The gameplay and kind of stylings remind me a lot of, again, like Majora's Mask in that particular era. You'll explore, use different masks and items in order to solve the various puzzles, and try and figure out what it is you need to do. I like the art style and the animation that the game is going for. The big problem that I have with the demo is that it does not feature anything about the time loop itself. And this features just more along the lines of like your basic like 3D action adventure gameplay. There's some stealth, there's a few little fight sections where you use a slingshot to like hit stuff, but all in all it's kept relatively simple. I am interested to see like how the time loop aspects will come into play, and I would at least keep an eye out for this one to see if there will be more to the demo and to the looping in the future. And now we go to Hae Stack, a deductive reasoning game about you spying on people for your corporate overlords. And if I was going to use my full and real name for this game, you're barking up the wrong tree/stack. What works is you'll use your program here to track people and figure out all the relevant and commercially available information for them. Where they live, who are their relatives and spouses, what are their interests, and more. You'll also get assigned tasks from people looking to do some snooping on their neighbors and other information. You'll use the timeline to track dots, and then put on your deductive reasoning cap to figure out who they are and why are they visiting or be in certain places. Now, it's a very interesting idea for a game, of course, by the fact that it's built off of the fact there's actual tools like this in real life, which is not dystopian at all. And it's a really great concept for a deductive reasoning game. So, if you don't mind doing some snooping and spying on everyone, I would give this one a try. And now we go to Feed the Forest. This is an incremental game where you play a happy little snail who has been given the task to fill the dry desert up with forests and collect fruit for a strange worm creature, which I'm sure has no evil aspirations whatsoever. In this one, you'll move around the ground to spawn kind of grass and jungle. You can select what kind of trees, bushes, and more will appear. They will of course grant you the fruit and berries that you then need to take to buy more upgrades so you can do more tree planting and rinse and repeat. You'll eventually be able to have an army of tiny, even more adorable snails help you gather. It's hard to tell from the demo how much more there'll be in the full game. Will there be a larger map? Will we be getting more snails, more berries, more creatures? But we'll still have a very delightful time rolling and planting around. So this will be for the Green Thumb incremental fans in the audience. And for the last game of our showcase, we have Gossamer Matrix, a game that is trying to, I guess, out-jank Cruelty Squad. You have been tasked to kill the managers of a building, and you're going to have to input your guns and ammo manually, your food, and even your recreational drugs. This is a game that is pretty much defined by the jank of how you move and play. While you have free look when you're not in a hallway, when you are, the game switches to kind of like ultra tank-like controls to move, manually aim, make sure you properly hit your reloads in time, and everything dies very fast. This is a game, again, that if you're looking for a finely tuned and highly optimized FPS experience, it is not it. And I did run into some unfortunate bugs while I played as well, when the game just stopped responding to some of my ammo pickups, and a big old soft lock and crash at one point. As I said at the start, this is a game that's going to be for someone very specific in terms of what they're looking for in an FPS. And if you are that lucky someone, I would give this a try, but for everyone else, this may be a very quick corporate visit. And with that, our showcase comes to an end. We only have a few more parts left, and many more demos for me to play. You'll find links to all the games down below. Thanks for watching, and come back for more game design and indie game coverage coming soon. And hopefully after a small rest with all these indie games we're covering for Next Fest. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.